Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. For everyone that's on the call today, Ben Miller and I are here today to present a mid-year update on what's going on with the Miami chapter of Delta Upsilon. Ben Miller is on tonight. He is the current undergraduate alumni chair, and my name is Andrew Kramer, and I am the chapter advisor for this year. So today we're going to go through undergraduate activities and then also touch on house projects as well as operations of the alumni chapter as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ben to get started.
Hey everybody, if you don't know me, I'm Ben Miller. I'm a senior here at Miami, and obviously a brother in Delta Upsilon. And I'm studying mechanical engineering, and then I have a minor in business management. And this year I'm the alumni chair. So we'll start the presentation off. So just some updates on Greek Week. We ended up winning Greek Week, which was great. Had a lot of fun with it. We kind of honestly surprised by it, but we won. Sadly, we did not win putter pool this year, but it was a really big event. We had probably an estimate of about 1,000 students, which is really big. In the last few years, it's probably doubled or tripled in size, which is good. It's a good sign. Definitely keeps Delta Upsilon name out there and people knowing that who we are and what we do, and kind of just keeping a good social status on campus. So for intramurals this year, we actually were able to get we were regular season champions and went undefeated in the Fraternity Soccer League. So just the fraternities were in that one, and we were able to clutch that up. And then for the pickleball league in the fraternities, we actually came second, which is pretty good. And then we got into the final four for the intramural league for basketball, and that's the entire university wide. So that's not just the fraternities, which was pretty impressive for us.
Where was the puttable? I mean, I'm just curious. I looked at the picture.
Puddle pool was this year. It was South Quad. So behind those stands, and behind the guys in the stands, is McFarland Hall, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then for social stuff that we done for chapter activities, we threw our annual adult swim party, which went well. You can see in the bottom left, we filled one of our annexes with sand. We bring a couple tons of sand in and move it, and then basically just make a beach in the backyard, blow up a inflatable, and then we get hay bales and make a big kind of swimming pool type thing. It's a lot of fun. And then we've also amped up our Gatsby semifinal this year, and that was in November. And we got a jazz band for that, which was really cool, and they're really good. And then we also pitched in with IFC for a Red Hawk Rally for a tailgate this year, which was really cool. The school is really trying to get Greek life back involved and get people to show up to games. And a good way, they figured out a pretty good way of doing it, of having these Red Hawk rallies where they have a tent for every organization. And we can all show up, hang out, tailgate before the game, and then go into the game and stuff. And I think it worked pretty well this year. And hopefully they continue it, as previous years have had pretty low success rate of getting students to the games. Additionally, we teamed up with new sororities and stuff, unique events. We did a wedding with one of the sororities. It's like a mock wedding. It's a lot of fun. It brings people in, kind of an icebreaker with some new sororities, which is fun. And then we totaled about 6 socials with sororities throughout the fall semester.
Hey, this is Brian Hallis, class of '93. Just out of curiosity, which sororities did you have these events with?
We did, the majority of ours kind of been with Phi Mu and G Phi. Those are the ones we kind of stick around a lot. We did some stuff with DZ, Zeta. I believe we did something with AKO, and then DG and KD were the 2 other ones. Those are the main ones that we hang out with.
Those, I mean, based upon, I'm an old fart, but based upon people I know on campus, those are good sororities. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So for leadership and development and our service update, we sent John to our President's Academy pretty recently. He went from January 4th to the 7th. And this is basically what he had to say. He said it was a great time. Basically, it was long for days, but he really had a lot of fun, and he enjoyed his cabin, and he plans to keep in touch with some of the other chapter presidents and kind of work with them to see what problems they have and what problems we have for different things, and bounce ideas off each other, which is really good. And then even more recently, for Global Service Initiative. So those of you that don't know, that's the fundraising or the philanthropy that DU International kind of donates to and structures all the chapters to donate to. we actually, for the first time in my career here at Miami, sent somebody because COVID for the most part was the reason they didn't have anything. But we sent two members, Alex and Bill, and they went from January 6th to the 13th. You can see them in the top left of the pictures, having a lot of fun. They said they loved it and they would honestly maybe want to go back. So a lot of what they spent doing was helping out a school down there. And the tree that you see in the bottom right of the pictures, they built those cement walls around it. They built those up so that students, like during like recess type things, they would have a place to sit under the tree and have some shade so they're not in the sun the whole time. And then above that, you can see the wooden slabs. Those have columns in them, and they laid the foundation under those and then got those in there. And I believe that's about where they left the project at with the time they had. And then lastly, they painted the walls of the school, as you can see in the bottom left of the pictures.
Hey, Ben, how you said that we were able to send them. Did they fund this themselves? Did the local chapter help out?
Yep, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But yep, and these are the first two brothers we've ever sent to Global Service Initiative. I mean, I'm pretty excited that we finally got two guys down there to represent our chapter at this DU event.
So for recruitment, we actually took a fall class this year. It's our second year, I believe, doing that back to back. It's something we're doing just to try to get some of the sophomores that maybe weren't able to rush or forgot to sign up to rush in the spring that wanted to be in DU or liked us or we've had around. Just grab a few more guys that we like that probably would be hanging out anyways. Might as well give them a bid and have them join the fraternity. So second fall rush, we had 5 new sophomore members this year, which is great. Bringing our total membership up to 98 going into spring rush, which is incredible. I mean, if we get a class of 28, 30, 40, somewhere in that ballpark, we'll have a lot of members and we'll be one of the bigger fraternities on campus. Talking about spring recruitment, that starts January 28th. And we have over 70 potential new members that we have numbers and contacts for that we've talked to throughout this past semester that we plan to communicate with during rush week and hope to possibly give bids to. Granted, we like them and we get to know them a little bit better, but yeah. And so also with that, sadly, there's only 636 students signed up for recruitment this year, which is down 50% since last year, and which is roughly 115 lower than last year. And it's roughly 264 lower than the year before that. So there's been a slight trend downwards. Pre-COVID, I looked at some numbers and it was about 1,900, 800, somewhere in there, just kind of averaging, bouncing back and forth depending on the year. But since COVID, it's been a little bit of a trend down, which is interesting and something that you guys should be aware of.
Does anybody, do we kind of know what's causing the trend? Is it, changing campus life, changing perspective of fraternities overall or Greek life?
I think it might be a change in perspective slightly. I mean, obviously, everybody knows the news on fraternities. Like, it's not the greatest looking thing in the world. I think some of that's died down a little bit. I think people have really kind of figured it out, especially with the law changes and stuff like that.
The other factor leading to the more, like when Ben's talking the pre-COVID era, spring 2020, right at COVID, was the first year where where the GPA requirement went up as well.
That's right.
And so that's where we're, as the GPA requirement's gone up from a 2.4 10 years ago as the base, and that'll, keep a decent group of people out after one semester of grades. But yeah, I mean, to Ben's point though, I mean, you can see that we've already talked with 10% of the people that have signed up. And Ben's, Ben's range there of mid-20s to 40 is an excellent class for us. So if we bring in half of the people that we've really recruited in the fall, we're in a very strong position.
So this brings us to our homecoming fundraiser that we had, which is amazing, and a special shout out to Don McKay. Thank you for being the leading donor on this project. We really appreciate it. So if you guys didn't know, our homecoming fundraiser as underclassmen, we decided to have one this year, and basically it was to raise money, specifically $5,500 to raise money to get a painted line on the new driveway that would represent a basketball court, as you can see pictured in the image, and then have a installed in-ground basketball hoop, because currently we just have one that's kind of one of like the ones that are movable but have sand or cement in them. And it's just kind of worn down and needed to be updated anyways. And so we thought, hey, why don't we raise some money so that we can get a really nice one that will last for a long time? And then you might be asking why it seems weird the way it's set up. That was kind of, we had a vote internally and decided that it was better to have the way it is now, or the way you can see it pictured, because of the fact that that's a full size 3-point line, versus if you were to put it the other way, you wouldn't have the full range of that. And then this way, people will actually be able to play basketball and then, help our intramurals out and hopefully finish first and not just in the Final Four this year. So basically, as you can see on the left, it's basketball hoop, in-ground, partial court, and then DU logo. And then the last thing was adding additional frat bench, which is what people call them, but they're basically a multi-level stand type bench. So there's like 3 levels that you can sit on all of them, or whatever. And we already have one, as you can see, kind of just at the edge of the left of that picture. But getting an additional one for more seating for cookouts, stuff like that, so guys can hang around and play basketball and watch. And then this the last chapter update. Some notable things from this semester. We voted last semester and actually decided that to put into our constitution every semester to have a formal chapter. This is something that I know a lot of most of you watching probably remember having to do, or just every chapter, depending on what year you're from. But we decided to have a formal chapter in the Constitution to have it mandatory once per semester. And we had that for the first time this semester. And the feedback we got, I mean, there was a lot of huffing and puffing to put on a suit at the beginning of it. But afterwards, guys really liked it because everybody was there. And people really enjoyed it. And we had food afterwards, and we were able to hang out. So that was a lot of fun. And then something else that's pretty notable is the fact that our leadership this year for undergraduates is pretty young. And that kind of just shows that we are recruiting really good guys that share the same values that same values as DU values. And they really want to help out the fraternity and really kind of make a mark in a positive way. And then lastly, we currently have members, DUs in 4 different IFC positions, which is amazing and almost unheard of. To have one fraternity in that many positions. Usually it's 1, maybe 2. So we have our vice president of conduct, which you can see, Patrick Hang, and then vice president of recruitment, which is Josh Smith. And then we had our director of the conduct board, which was Jackson Smith, and the director of athletics, which was Justin DeCastro.
All right, well, thanks, Ben. And Ben will stick around as we'll get to more questions at the end. So the first thing I wanted to do as we transition more to the alumni side of things is to highlight some key activities and events throughout the spring that are in our schedule that we'd love to have alumni presence at if you were able to attend. We mentioned recruitment starts January 28th. That means that our start of our associate member program is that next Sunday on February 4th. So the guys get right in and we start the mandated 4-week program. And then really the key event, I think, that most alumni who are local who could get a good interaction at with the undergraduate chapter is coming to associate member initiation on March 3rd. The guys, I think this is a great event where alumni have the opportunity to really see the chapter. Unfortunately, alumni weekend is great if you want to come and hang out if you're coming for a reunion, you're coming to meet the board members, but most of the chapter is not in Oxford in the summer. So if you are looking to, get some engagement with the undergraduate members, the initiation ceremony will be a great time to do that. We'll share more details as we get closer to that, but we wanted to highlight that now. And for those of you that may be interested or well located, we do have our Leadership Institute this year in Atlanta, and that'll be the first weekend of August. The first thing that we wanted to highlight, brand new for the fall here, is exterior improvements that have been going on to the house. So we started at Alumni Weekend last year. The alumni board got together and discussed possible landscaping options to redo the front yard. We agreed on a new stone wall that could go in around the side, as well as planters and just a complete real facelift. One of the things that was driving this was a grant that the university offered to all the fraternities to improve the beautification of the area. And we definitely took advantage of this. It only accounted for about 10% of the project, but it was enough to get the project started. And the team that was organized by Ben Case and everyone else on the board there really got in. The workers started at the beginning of August, and the wall was completed fairly quickly, and all the touch-up work was done in time for homecoming in October. So a quick and impactful change to the front face of the house, and something you'll definitely notice the next time you get back. This foundation, as you can see, is fully set, and we didn't try to build this one ourselves, so it should be around for many years to come. On the fundraising side, we are making some progress in this area. We had 58 donations in the last year, meaning from July to June is our fiscal year. So those were up. We are always hoping to increase the number of donors that we're coming from. I think we saw a big, a nice shift from the people giving just to the international fraternity to giving to the local chapter, with coming up to 10 donations to the local chapter last year. Hopefully, we've already seen some additional donations this year, which will bring that number up again. I do want to highlight that our chapter legacy plan, which is used to sponsor registrations like the Global Service Initiative, is now 80% funded. We have 2 new educational foundation scholarships that were established this year. We'll highlight those in a second. And lastly, I want to highlight that we had 4 brothers who committed to the annual 400 East Spine Club. We've recently redone our chapter website, and one of the features that this enables us to create is an automatic 400 East Spine Club. In the past, it's been reliant on letters going out and the goodwill of a lot of alumni to mail in checks. But now we have the ability to really get this into more of a routine fashion. So we have 4 brothers that have started that, and hoping to grow that more over this year. As I mentioned, so the way a lot of this works is our scholarship and funds work together to provide activities and leadership development for the undergraduate members. So the first one there, as I mentioned, the chapter legacy plan. This is tied into the Ignite the Charge campaign that DU is running. So if we can close that 20%, that's a win-win for that campaign as well as our chapter itself. What it does, though, is it provides us with an annual amount of money that's used for registrations. So, for example, each registration to send the 2 men to go to the Global Service Initiatives was $500 each. So we were able to fund those. We typically send 6 to 8 brothers to the regional leadership academies in Chicago each year. We send brothers to the Leadership Institute in Atlanta. All those registrations get covered, can be covered from this pool of money that's available to us. The next 2 accounts are non-endowment funds. So this is money we use at our discretion, but it doesn't auto top up. Money comes in and we try to use it. So in this, the first one, the chapter educational account, this covers travel and related expenses for educational programs. So we had the legacy plan pay for the registration for GSI. The plane tickets were paid for by the educational account. So really, without alumni, although our undergraduate brothers could self-fund and attend some of these activities, it really becomes much more possible to send someone to Jamaica for a service trip through donations that we receive. And also, that goes along with those, we'll be sending 3 to 4 brothers down to Atlanta this summer as well. Again, all that travel at the moment will be funded by alumni donations. The next one down there is the chapter housing account. This one is not regularly used too much, but we do want to highlight that donations to these top 3 are all tax deductible, and we can use these funds to do educational improvements to the fraternity house, and it also lets us offset some other costs that we have by using this fund to pay for those educational improvements, which we make every year, regardless of if there's major donations or not. The next 2 down, specifically fund registrations to the Leadership Institute. So when I said we'll be sending 3 to 4 brothers this summer, that's in line with last year and up from previous years. And that's has been done in the past solely pretty much by a scholarship fund that Jack Rogers created with DU International. Going forward, that scholarship will fund 1.5 registrations each and every year. And then starting this year, Brother Dave Garrison has also created an equal fund that'll take us to 3 total registrations that are just coming from these scholarship funds every year going forward. And then we can use the legacy plan to supplement additional registrations. And finally, the last scholarship fund that was created was the Presidential Performance Fund. This is a tiered scholarship for our chapter president based on our chapter's performance. This will be coming into effect in about 2 years. But the goal here, right, is that our presidents are competitive people, and we want to see progress that to have our chapter be recognized as one of the best chapters throughout Delta Upsilon. And as in the real world, if the CEO leads the chapter, the CEO leads a company to the top of the field, they get rewarded. This will allow our chapter presidents to receive a scholarship based on the performance as well there. We do have Scott Surplus on. He is the alumni board treasurer, and he can answer any specifics here, but I just wanted to highlight some trends we've seen in the finance space. We have looking back over the last 5 years. So on the left, year over year, you can see kind of 2 levels that we've been at as a chapter for total income and expenses. That is totally driven by the number of brothers that we have living in the house. So pre-2020, income was much down from where we are today. We were averaging more in the 20 brother space, with the 2018-2019 class being below our break-even numbers. And you can see that class in that year, we basically evened income and expenses up to this point of the year, and their undergraduate budget was virtually nothing up to that point. Thankfully now, the last 3 years, we have filled this fraternity house, and that has led to healthy budgets. You're looking at this current year, or this current semester, the brothers were allocated almost $34,000 for chapter activities. Now, again, part of this improvement is we're now an almost 100-person chapter, so that goes along with that. The last thing I do want to point out here, as we look to the future, is our mortgage expense, and you can see that at almost $40,000 at the semester mark. This is a significant chunk that is eaten up in the budget. That hopefully, as we work our way through the remaining part of the mortgage, we can free that money up to go back into the house, go into our savings, go back into undergraduate activities, rather than giving that money to the bank. So that's the left half. On the right half, insurance loss prevention is a topic that is high on the minds of the alumni board, because it's one of our most variable and expensive costs that you can see. It costs us nearly as much in insurance as what we can allocate for the undergraduate members for all their activities for a semester. Again, that's a year versus a semester, but it's a huge chunk of money at over $20,000. But one trend I want to point out is since 2018, when we had our highest per brother cost, we have brought that down semester after semester, and we are now one of the lowest per member costs in Delta Upsilon. Unfortunately, all the great programming and the work that the international chapter has done at their level to bring costs down, we have finally now hit this trough of the curve, and we can expect just year over year increases from this point forward. However, I think it's just in an era of inflation, we're bucking those trends by being able to bring those down while everything is getting more expensive around us. So I just want to highlight, and that can't get done without the undergraduates attending events, completing training. So that's a result of their actions year over year to improve the fraternity and keep things going like that. So that's where I want to end tonight for our quick mid-year update. Does anyone who's on the call have any questions tonight?
Yes, this is Brian Hallis. First question is on finances. How many years are left on the remaining mortgage?
It was about 2036 maybe.
Thank you. The other question I have, and this goes back to our undergraduate brother, specific to Rush. What is I know you're not the VP of recruitment, but I'm curious as to what your instincts tell you as to how many guys you think we're going to get in Spring Rush. And if I'm not mistaken, oftentimes houses are, bidding guys on day one, right? They've been recruiting them all semester. They show up and they bid them immediately. So from what I can gather, by the end of day two, you have a good feel whether it's successful or not. Can you kind of comment on that?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, over the past 2 years that I've been here, that's kind of what I've seen. I'd say by the end of day two, like going into day three is really when because we had 1 year where it was like day one we were freaking out. I mean, we had gotten like 6 guys that said yes. But then day two came around and we got 14 more. So going into day three, we had 24 or something like that, or 22. And so like we weren't really worried. But that would be correct about going into day three. You pretty much know where you're going to sit, with a few stragglers of maybe up to 8 at most. But
Yeah, and I just want to touch on a couple. The open house period on each night of recruitment week is only 2 hours now. So what I think we're starting to see more of is these freshmen only have time to visit one fraternity house in a night. So they'll probably come to their first choice that first night. Again, if you've been recruited all semester long, you're probably going to get your first bid, and then you might go check out a second house on your second night and then come to make a decision after that. But yeah, I mean, to Ben's point, I mean, I think we're in a strong position.
Andrew, I had a bad connection. I had to drop for 4 or 5 minutes. You were on that one slide of the events coming up, and I did see the notice about the recruitment and somebody being, I guess you sent in a note saying that there was a planned alumni to be there. Was that a person, an alumni? Can you provide more context around that?
Sure. Yeah, so during recruitment week, we always like to have some alumni presence at the house, just in case there's a random question, we need to get an answer for someone. We need to be put in contact with a parent that has a question. The last year or so, we've had Kyle King, who is our live-in advisor, be present for that. Unfortunately, he let me know today that he got called up for work to take a work trip that week. So that's where that email came from. It's not a mandatory thing that it's there. We would like to have that if possible. So that starts on the Monday, the 29th, and really through that Wednesday. It'd be aspirational to have someone there each night.
Okay, thank you. I saw that, and if I can help out, I just want to make sure I understood what was being asked to be there. So basically, there for the recruitment night as alumni participating.
Yeah, as a face there, and then just as they give out bids, just again to be there to welcome, and then we'll have the actual pinning ceremony on Sunday with all of them together. So yeah.
And are bids actually given out during rush now? I mean, during the rush itself?
No. So during the time frame, that 2 hour time frame, you're not technically allowed to give bids, if my memory is correct.
I think the first day, that first 2 hours, yeah, you're locked out.
Yeah. And so basically you have to wait for them to leave, and then I think it's usually 6 to 8 is the time frames, and then at 9 you're approved to start giving bids.
You can call them up and say, hey, we want to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Sorry. Just it's been, I don't want to say how many years, but a lot of Scott Surplus. I know it's a long time since we've been through any type of process, so our memories may not be accurate.
It's fine, and really it changes year over year what the nuances of the rules are. So
I do have one more question relative to
Yep.
rush. And once again, just pure curiosity. So what other chapters do we tend to cross rush with the most at this point?
It's a good question. I would say Delta Chi would be a pretty big one. That there's a lot of guys that over the past 2 years that I know have told me afterwards that they've looked at both and definitely were got bids from both and were really considering both. But it's kind of just everything. I think now there's obviously the attractive or the jockey kind of fraternities, but I think now pretty much it's guys just kind of find a place that they like the guys, and it's not as much of a big deal, which I think is good. D-Chi would be the one I really would know, like I've heard a lot. D-Sig as well. Lambda maybe even a little bit, which, you know, is awful because they're next door. But I think those would be the big 3 or 4, or 3, I mean.
Yeah, and just a follow-up question to that. I mean, what is do you kind of known for?
Honestly, kind of thankfully, there isn't one, I would say. Um, in the best way, honestly. I think we've had, like, me and some of the other exec or people that were previously in the exec with me have asked like girls and stuff or like other guys and been like, what do you think? And they're like, I don't know. We've never really like heard of a like specific defining factor, which I think is good. Another plus that I talk to or tell people a lot, like when we're recruiting, is the fact that we have a lot of guys that aren't just finance or aren't just econ or business majors. I mean, those are all great and you need those. And those, I mean, the Farmer's amazing school, but we have a lot of engineers, me included, and we have a few pre-meds. So we have a pretty diverse group, and I think people just kind of see us as pretty good guys that are just down to have a good time or like relax, and nobody's doing anything stupid, which is good.
And just one other question, I promise. Where does the chapter stand as far as your undergraduate GPA and how that ranks against the other fraternities?
Our GPA for the fall semester is up to a 3.15, and they haven't published the latest rankings yet. At a 3.11, we were near the bottom. At a 3.15, we could move up 8-9 spots. But so yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have been saying we have a 3.15 and we were near the bottom 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So it is a strong GPA, but yeah, it has room for improvement.
Okay, thanks.
Any final questions from anyone?
So yeah, I've got a couple of clarifying things, I guess. Scott, we talked about what the term was that was left in the mortgage, and just for Brian's edification, what's the current balance?
While he's looking that up, I would say this slide was really easy to put together thanks to Scott. He's on year 5 now of putting these monthly reports out. So it was really easy to go pull back our numbers and see what life was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, 666,000.
I think the last question I would ask would be for Ben Miller. Do your parents really wish you'd shave that off your face?
No.
Okay. Call home.
Mm-hmm.
But nice work, guys. So this was a great presentation, and I hope everybody's asked all the questions they have, because it's a great opportunity to, you know, describe a little bit about what's going on and connect with our alumni base.
You know, Ben, I just have a comment that I think that, you know, your parental unit could be jealous because his is white, if you tried it.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be. That could be.
All right, well, perfect. Then we'll start wrapping up here. Again, if anyone does have any additional questions, you can contact us at our email or go onto our website and get a hold of us through that way. But otherwise, thank you for attending. Thank you for the questions, and have a great night.
All right, thanks, Andy and everyone.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much.